This is the third and final video of the how to, well, now this one's going to be called How to Master a Country Song. This file is the mix down from the How to Mix a Country Song videos. It's a 32-bit floating point file, sampled at the native sampling rate of 44.1 kilohertz. So, let's make this video as quickly as possible because the other ones were long. Going through the FX, the very first thing simulates going into the input of a mastering engineer's console. And I like the way that the API console sounds. It's a very clean sound to it, and that's what a mastering engineer would have. Something transparent. Next up, we have the emulation of a Suntech EQ. If you were to buy the hardware version of this thing, it's like $10,000. They don't make them anymore. So the hardware, $10,000. The plugin is, I think I got this for $150. So a pretty big difference in price. This thing not only is a good equalizer, it adds tone to the track. Tone that I really like. So, moving on, VTM. Now, why is VTM the third plugin? And of course, we have it on our half-inch tape machine, FG9. FG9 is clearer, more transparent. The half-inch machine is like mixing down to tape, or actually, in this case, mastering to tape. And that's it. It's simulating an old-school mastering engineer's setup. It's as simple as that. So my source track is a half-inch tape mixed down, and then my final version is going to go through that. Now, I did do something different with this master. I had just bought this plugin as I started mixing this track, and I wanted to test it out. A lot of people were praising this all year long on Gear Sluts, and I was like, you know, if this thread is still going into November, which is when I started the mix, into November, that people are still talking about this plugin, I had to check it out, and sure enough, I loved it. This is the most drastic change to the mix out of all these plugins. And as I said in the previous mix video, all these plugins that you see here, including Ozone, I added to the mix as I was mixing because I wanted to know what it would sound like in the master. So yeah, I love what this did to the sound. It's like I raised the volume and it didn't destroy the mix. And the little transients that it cut off, I liked what it did. It actually cleared up the mix in some way. The distortion sounds like clarity. So very cool plugin. And the best part about this plugin, because I'm a Kazrog customer, $10. Actually, it might have just been on sale for $10. I have no idea. I got it for $10. That's all I know. And it's $20 normally. So it's still a really good price for what it does. It's a clipper plugin. It's basically like a limiter, but not really. Like I said, this made the mix sound good. It made it sound loud, but it still kept the dynamics. And I loved it. I recommend it. If you can't hear that in my voice, yeah. There's my mini review of the KClip plugin. Finally, and this wasn't doing much, Ozone. Oh, I'm sorry, it actually was. I did finally try out the stereo imaging portion of this plugin because the track was still sounding a little bit too mono for my liking. So I tried stereo imaging. I used a preset, clicked on this button right here. Oops, wrong button. This button. Clicked on this, chose that as my preset, and it sounded good, so I used it. It made the mix, the master, sound better. It made it have more depth in the mix. It just made it sound like a more finished song. And then finally, all this is bringing the level up just a little bit more. I'm not even really kissing the gain reduction at all. It's just bringing the level up more from what the clip did. And then I had the DC filter on as well. And that's it. There's nothing else to this plugin. Now, if I was mastering down, because I'm already at 44.1, I would add mbit plus to this for my dithering. And then my last thing I would do is truncate down to 16-bit. But because I'm not, I'm keeping it off. There's no need to have dither on. And that's it. There's no more. All these, obviously, I have ARC on. I had ARC on during the mix. And what I tend to do with ARC is ARC will flatten out my speakers. I'll mix with this, and then I'll disable it so I can make sure that my mix isn't too harsh. And then SPAN, I have that on just to see how well the mix is going. And, you know, I like to have an upside down smiley face. I don't know why ARC was on twice. Whatever. And then I still use K-meter just to make sure my track isn't going way too loud. But this was kept quite good. I think I maxed it out around right here on K12. So it's loud, but it's not ridiculously loud. And that's about it. If you guys want to check out the final mix, go on to the Real Home Recording SoundCloud page, and you can download a WAV file of it. And also, like I said in the mix, I'll be, just like the mix session, I will be including this for you to download and to drop the mix down into, now you'll have to mix down the files yourself, but you can take the Telefunken files, the raw files, drop that into a folder, mix it down as is inside of Reaper, and then you'll have this file as long as you name it. I'll zoom in on this, I guess. The country song, the title here. If you call it that, then you can drop this in. I almost forgot to talk about this. Okay, so when you're mixing, you have to add dynamics. Otherwise, the track just sounds flat. This is something that I've learned listening back to my old mixes. They don't have a lot of changes, and even though this track was really well arranged so that during the courses you have a lot more instrumentation, it still sounded flat. I was surprised by that, to be honest with you. So when I mastered this track, this is all volume automation. It's a little bit louder right here at the very beginning. Then it drops down just a decibel. Just a decibel for the first course. And then you see this. I'll zoom in a little bit here so we can see some of the more precise automation. So it raises up just a little bit going into the beginning of the course right here, and then it goes up to a peak. You see that? You see how it levels out, and it's going up just a little bit, but enough where it adds dynamics to the entire mix. So it levels out right here for the final part of the course, the who I am and where, and then it levels down gradually, just like it rose up gradually. And then finally for the next course, it goes down, but it's not as quiet as the original. Actually, it is as quiet as the original, but because of the extra instrumentation, it sounds louder. And then we do the same for each course, you know, peaking and then dropping and then peaking again. And then we bring it up for the final crescendo. We're louder. And then as the song goes out, we are fading down. And then finally, our final bit of automation is actually up here with the fade, the automatic fade. And I cut it out. The very last track that was playing was piano. It was overplaying, and really I should have cut it down in a mix, but I didn't. But this ended up rounding out everything quite well. And then the other thing I did, the very important task of making sure that you give it right around 0.180 for the start of the song. That's like the minimum. I think, where did I start this? So the start of the song's actually 0.231, around there. And that lets us, you know, if you hit the play button, you don't want to have this start immediately at the very beginning. That'll sound terrible. So you give it a little bit of time. And that's good mastering practice. Like I said, around 0.160 is the minimum that you want. And any shorter than that, and the very beginning of a track might be cut off as people are skipping through CD players if they're still using a CD player. But even MP3 players might cut off the very, very beginning if you start it at 0. So those are my mastering tips. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video series on producing a country mix and master. And leave me feedback in the comments below. This has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com, celebrating 10,000 subscribers. Yay!